Welcome to your Daily Editors podcast, a podcast that discusses political issues and conversations and geopolitics. Of course, I'm honored to host all the three big editors of the Standard Group. The man who has been here for some time and disappeared. I think he went to Bukusu land and back. Francis, introduce yourself, man.
Oh, hi, I'm Wanyonyi.
Mtu
ya siasa na mambo ingine.
Mambo gani?
Mambo ya hapa na pale.
Kareithi?
Hi everybody. I am Amos Kareithi, political editor.
City?
Good afternoon. Thairu is my name, and I'm here to share my thoughts and the perspective in the political field and what's happening currently ahead of the 2027 polls.
Thank you very much, City. And in that spirit of 2027, we saw Wanyonyi, the gentleman, the Rigiji and his team forming a very united front against William, and it seems that the die is cast politically now.
There's nothing like the die is cast in politics. What they did was they met. I think Eugene Wamalwa was opening his new headquarters. I don't know why he moved from the previous one. And they made some political pronouncements. Now what you need to take into concern is that it's 3 years to the election or thereabout. And in politics, 1 hour, 2 hours is quite a long time. When you look at those men or the gentlemen and the ladies, they have very diverse interests. And there are serious things that lie ahead that will determine whether they'll hold or not. So I don't think I'll read much into it.
Kareithi, there's nothing to read much into the union yesterday meeting.
Well, in politics, a day is too long. 1 day can make a lot of difference. What we have just seen is the start of the political dance that is going to be quite long. We are going to expect a lot of movement here and there. People are going to converge, disagree, agree again. And in all this, don't expect that William Ruto, the man they are uniting to kick out, is going to take it easy. He may even sponsor some of them to just try to destabilize the base. The game has just started. Built up, sit back and enjoy, because it's going to be quite some entertaining theater.
So that theater, CT, the significance of Rigiji, first of all, went and met Martha. And I could see the guy was given, Martha was given a very nice sheep to slaughter. And some kiondo with a lot of pineapples. Did they bury the hatchet? Is it bringing the mountain together? Is it a mirage?
I think let me just start with where Kareithi and Francis have left in regards to what happened yesterday. They say that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. As much as I'd like to agree with them that in politics, a day or even hours is a very long time compared with what we've been seeing. And yesterday it brought a picture of people who are united against one common ground. And this common enemy that they want to push out is President William Ruto. As much as they will be having different political ambitions, there are those who would like to be the presidential flag bearer of that coalition. There may be those who would like to maybe be their running mates. But now the bigger picture will be bringing all these men and women together right now. If at all anyone tries to bolt out, then that means that he or she will be making that step alone, noting that in this coalition, we saw the bigwigs of the likes of Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa, Matiang'i was represented by the Senator for Kisii, that's Richard Onyonka. We have the likes of Rigiji himself. And of course, now what you said, Rigiji now bringing Martha Karua to the fold. I think Martha Karua, what Rigiji did was to go back to the mountain and trying to galvanize the mountain and the leaders who are from the Mount Kenya region to shape or to come up with a common stand against President William Ruto. What I don't know is whether he will have the courage and the gusto to try and confront the fourth president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta. Remember that in Mount Kenya, he still has a very big stake, noting that in the run-up to the general elections, in the 2022 general elections, majority of the Mount Kenya region feel that they didn't follow the direction that the former president was taking them, and that's why they are really now garnishing and regretting why they supported President William Ruto.
So you're saying that William is a common enemy, but they are not telling us, these characters are not telling us why they are against the guy.
Okay, you heard what Rigathi was saying yesterday, or claiming rather, that there are Indians who go to State House, the deputy president has to be kept waiting for hours because they are cutting deals. He went on and on and on, tararara, mambo mingi, thinking that we've forgotten his impeachment hearing was just a few months ago. And the issues were brought to the table, and they were saying, this guy did A, B, C, D. I mean, much as he was saying, oh, my son was in KEMSA to look for a fee note, my other son got a 600 million credit. There were questions that were legitimate, which were being asked then. So now when he comes and tells us that, yeah, ni mweupe kama pamba, and he sees other guy, Kenyans have not forgotten. Number two, when you look at the interests, already Matiang'i says he's going to contest, and he has the backing of Jubilee, which is the former president's party. Eugene Wamalwa has a headache in Natembea, because Natembea said he's going to contest in the APK. Eugene says he's the party leader, is going to contest. Those are interests that are still being probably worked on. Martha Karua has rebranded her party and says yeye pia anatosha. Kalonzo Musyoka, he even gave himself some funny title, People's Opposition something. He says he's going to contest. Yeah, you see, all that rigmarole and conflicting interest. Ruto, given the political acumen that he has, given that he's a student of Moi and partly Tinga, hapa ni Muswaki. I doubt if there is anything of 1,000 miles that we are going to witness. Number two, Rigiji's case started last week on whether he can contest or not. That is if his impeachment was properly done. So he's going to be cast behind all these men if the courts uphold that his impeachment was right. When that happens, the tectonic things will shift to Mount Kenya, because other people also have ambition and interests. Raila, the vote is on 15th or 16th February. If he makes it, ODM will need to come up with a strategy. If he doesn't, he comes back. Once he comes back, this group of Kina Kalonzo and Eugene will now be pushed to probably third or fourth fiddle in the political equation. So I think at the moment, bado.
But I think what Wanyonyi is saying, it's a matter of mwaga ugali ni mwage kitoweo. Ruto went ahead and tainted Gachagua as a corrupt person. And as Wanyonyi has correctly put it, when he was being impeached, there were so many issues surrounding his integrity issues. And that does not mean that he's off the hook when it comes to integrity matters. But now this is a matter of, I might not be clean, but you are also very dirty. And it's a point of Kenyans should now come out and be told, if at all this, the president is doing this. For instance, yesterday he went ahead and even named some 2 Indians that they spend 5 to 6 hours when the deputy president, that was when he was there waiting at the lobby to see the president. So there's so much in regards to what Gachagua can really spill.
Yes, Kareithi.
Let us not be deceived by anybody. This is just a coalition of the hungry. They don't have a lot of beef against Ruto. It is because Ruto is having the plate, and they want to have their hand in the plate, and he's standing in the way. And they have just coming together is the easy part. Staying together is going to be pretty difficult, because you see at the end of the day, interests are going to keep changing. And like I said earlier, William has yet to come out with a strategy to deal with each and every one of them, because if he lets them be, he's going to lose, and he cannot afford to let them organize their game while he watches. He's also going to try some moves, and And when he does, one of the things he's going to do is to try to plant seeds of discord to see, so he may even throw some morsels to some of them, and some of these candidates, and many candidates who may come in the name of wanting to raise to State House, may be actually doing his bit, because he knows the more the merrier. And do not expect that these politicians are going to be driven by principles. There may be one or two, but at the end of the day, this politics is not about principles or what is going to deliver Kenya. First of all is to capture power. Then after that, they can decide how to deal with that power. But as it is now, people are just trying to realign themselves, and we are going to see a lot of these gymnastics going forward. So,
And CT, just to give you a small story, there is talk one day Saitoti went to State House to see Moi, and he was kept waiting. He kept moving from one desk to another seat, only for his cook to come from Moi's office. So that State House has too many things happening at the same time. So what Rigiji was telling us was part of what usually happens. But that is a story. I mean, no one was there to prove whether it's true or not. But Saitoti was shell-shocked. And in fact, when he was driving home, he was wondering, how does my cook go to see Moi without my knowledge? But he was in State House.
That's Moi politics.
And Ruto is a very keen student. Exactly.
But when you're saying that cook, it reminds me when Saitoti said that there comes a time that the interests of a nation
are bigger than that of an individual.
Yeah, the bigger the greater man.
And then, of course, 10 minutes later, the guy was bolting to Uhuru Park with personal interests. So what Kareithi has said, personal interests are what drives these guys.
There comes a time when some of these politicians mistake the interests of their stomach to be the interests of the nation.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they would want everybody to believe that when they are hungry, the entire nation and the world is hungry. When they are satisfied, hawasubu.
Are you trying to say that it's returned and we call them hawasumbui wakishiba?
Hata hawa wakishiba hawatasumbua.
Kila mtu akishiba asumbui.
At a time like this last year, yes, Gachagua was Ruto's biggest defender.
Yes.
Right now, he is his biggest critic. Tomorrow, if a bone is thrown his way, yes, and it has some meat, you'll be surprised at the song you sing.
And the way they are saying, so he'll be part of the praise and worship choir.
In fact, it is demonstrated by what is happening within ODM.
Yes.
A party that has persisted storms and a lot of political turbulence. Yes. Some of its foremost leaders are now
praise and worship
members. You wonder what was wrong yesterday is now holy today. So you can see it is just the lenses they are wearing. It is not even about principles. It is not about everything. If you give him the dark glasses, he'll see dark. You remove, you give him red, the guy will be happy.
Interesting. There are some pronouncements that the Suna East Member of Parliament, that's Junet Mohammed, who also doubles up as the minority leader in the National Assembly. There is a retreat that is happening in Naivasha currently. And they stated that with the challenges that the country is facing now, there is no single party that can make it to the presidency. So for him, if you look at where the ODM right now currently sits, it's in government. The only few people that are crying outside there, they're the people who have not yet been, as Kareithi says, some bone with some meat to chew. And those are the likes of Sifuna, Caleb Amisi from the West. And they feel that as much as there's a good number of members of ODM who have been given a good space and a warm corner in government to eat, those who have been left outside feel that they're in the cold. And if at all these continues, but of course we'll look at coming next month, if Raila loses this position, it complicates completely the matrix for Ruto himself first, because Baba would of course want to be on the ballot, and secondly the Kalonzo and Gachagwas. And if at all he wins, then it's a big win for Ruto, because he's He has already now been given a chance to win the block that Raila enjoys, especially in Nyanza and Western. And that's the reason why Ruto has been camping in Western 6 days a week.
And he gave us some sugarcane bonus. I'm yet to receive my portion. I farm, but of course, a very small scale. But I think Ruto is cleverer than what Kinagashagwa think, or that matrix that they are trying to form. It will take a genius of someone like Chinga. I don't know where they'll get one to really take the fight to Ruto's doorstep. As things stand, I'm still skeptical. What they are touting there as Western influence is, of course, Eugene Wamalwa and Natembeya. We all know that these are Trans Nzoia guys, geographically. They are not at the heart of Western politics. We have, of course, Raila's influence is still very big.
Especially in Busia.
Ruto is huge in Western. We have the two brothers who this guy was trying to refer to. That's Weta and Madividi. Yeah. So if you go to the granular details, you find that it's a start of something, but whether or not it will give us the outcomes that these guys are talking about, we are yet to see.
And now, they are just on the table. They have not decided who is going for it.
Yes.
You cannot, in a soccer, I'm not a very good soccer fan, but in soccer,
I thought you were a United fan.
No, I am not United or disunited. I'm just there. But if you must have a designated striker, the man who will be given the ball to score. In this case, we have got everybody wearing jerseys, pretending to be players. But when it comes to the critical moment of scoring, who will score? In this case, we are talking about the presidency. Who are they going to nominate? And when they nominate, we may have another round of MOUs and disputes, and that is where the rubber meets the road. Because it is one thing to attain power, it is quite another to know what you want to do with that power. You have seen Ruto has been accused of very many things, including creating mongrels not known in any democracies in the world. It is not out of choice. It is because the reality of when you get power and how to balance all these competing interests. You can imagine what will happen if you have got Gachagua, you have got Eugene, you have got Kalonzo, you have got all these other parties, and they want are limited spaces, and they want their cronies also to be included in government. Start sharing out that loaf of bread, which has got limited slices, and that is where the grabbing starts. And that is where you're going to witness the falling out. But we are getting ahead of ourselves because it is like imagining that they are going to outwit William. That time has not come. They have not demonstrated that they are hungry enough, they are powerful enough, and they have got the fire in the belly to take the battle, as Wanyonyi has said, to the doorstep of William and try to snatch the meat that is in his hand. That is going to be a moment to wait for, because my friend, the competition you are going to see is out of this world.
I think, gentlemen, I think you've covered that topic very well. Let's move on to IEBC. Finally, the select panel was sworn in yesterday.
Yes.
What is the outlook? What do you expect?
Actually, it's
the NADCO report.
It's a positive move, noting that for close to 2 years we've not been having commissioners in place. We've been having constituencies like Banisa. They lost their member of parliament some few months after being sworn in. So for close to 1.5 years, they've not been having their constitutional right in terms of representation, of which it's their constitutional right up to now. Secondly, we are late in terms of the delimitation of boundaries. Remember that by the 2010 constitution states that the review should be conducted 10 years, but not more than 12 years, of which it was supposed to be in 2022, but now we are late. So these are some of the issues that Kenyans have been raising, especially in representation. Remember that the issue to do with 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote came just the other day, even when Gachagua was being chased away. And the issues that are making these people feel that maybe they need to review is about representation. At the end of the day, there are those who feel that maybe there are other areas that need more constituencies, while others need constituencies to be merged because of the people who are there. But I know there are so many demographics. But this is a right direction that we've taken. I know the next step now will be, the team is now up and running. They had already been given their secretariat by the parliament. And now it's for them now to advertise afresh, although the previous selection panel that had issues had already shortlisted. But I believe that this time around, these people who have been selected, they'll have to start from scratch, noting that they've come on board through the NADCO report. And the reason why it went and dragged in court, it was because of Kalonzo. Kalonzo felt that he was not given a chance to nominate one of his own in that selection panel. Remember, they were just left with the political players left the president and the former prime minister to at least get a person there. And that's why all these issues have been dragging in court. But now I see some light at the end of the tunnel. But let's see who are the people that will finally be shortlisted and will not see a Cherera 4 again this time around.
But that, Wanyonyi, that NADCO report also had something about the Cherera 4 being given their packs if this thing is passed.
You see, the NADCO itself was born out of the usual contentions.
Yes.
Azimio on the one hand and Kenya Kwanza on the other. And so they reached a compromise. The Cherera 4, of course, doing the bidding for the Azimio team. And part of the things that they put in the NADCO report is that Ruto and Raila will sit, agree on their fate. Their fate would mean they're going to be paid their bucks, probably given state appointments, probably get their names deleted from some of these reports like the one Kina Chebukati were doing. Will we get another Cherera 4? I think the 2027 election will be as competitive, given the kind of things that we are seeing. There is Murima, Nini, and of course, if Raila will still be around. Chances are we might still get it. Because this select committee, you've seen Kalonzo again is at it. He was in the courts, he did not have his way. Now he's saying that Adam Zolo, because he's a presidential advisor, should not even sit in that thing. Yeah. So he's still throwing spanners. Definitely, that will build up to whoever will be selected. However, mweupe kama wanasema siku hizi ni mweupe kushinda baba.
Kushinda baba.
Kushinda pamba.
However mweupe there'll still be people who will not be satisfied. And as long as they repeat that, there will be contention at the election. But that's neither here nor there. The biggest problem they're having is this thing called delimitation of
boundaries. Yes.
Already they are in court. They are seeking the Supreme Court advisory opinion on what do we do now that we've broken the law. And if you listen to the Chief Justice yesterday, I think they'll be given a favorable advisory opinion that, okay, fine, instead of having a constitutional crisis, you guys go ahead with these
delimitation. Yeah.
Now the problem is this. We are in 2025. These guys maybe will be in office around April, maybe another 3 months or so. Once they come in, I don't know what will be their priority. Which means if we are going to start the limitation of these things, it will be towards the end of the year or early next year. Which gives us a very small window because boundaries are very emotive.
Yes.
They need to do very serious
consultation,
public participation.
Yeah.
Because you've seen chaos flare up even in places that you never imagined. Kisumu and Kericho, they are fighting over
the boundary.
Yeah. Look at Vihiga. They are saying, oh, Maseno ni yetu, Maseno si yenu, nini. It's a very emotive exercise. So if they delay, if they don't do it to the satisfaction of majority, then we'll see flare-ups again into the next election. So their work is cut out. Let them try and harakisha kidogo so that they get this thing done. Banisa is quite unfortunate that probably they'll not have
a representative
for the whole season.
For this whole
Yeah.
They need, I think, reparation. I don't know how that will be done. And it's not just Banisa. There are several wards. These MCA elections that are supposed to be filled.
Also, Opio Wandia is a constituency.
My constituency.
Now the constituency is there without representation. So There are too many balls that they are going to jump
we are demanding
in a very short period. So we wish them luck. But as City said, it's a very good step in the right direction.
But maybe the next
Kidogo, I am trying to remember why we went to NADCO. It was because Ruto and Raila could not agree. Now, they have agreed. So, Raila's men
And
or
government.
appointees become Ruto's supporters and vice versa. So, the panel we are having and the commissioners we are likely to have are going to be favorable, if you look at it logically, to the two men. So where does that leave the rest of the country?
That is why Kalonzo
that is where
Kalonzo
Kalonzo is raising the red
So
flag.
you can imagine Ruto and Raila having their cake and eating it, and the entire country is now watching. When we come to the delimitation of boundaries, it is another hot potato, because remember there's about 20-something constituencies which are supposed to be scrapped because they do not meet the constitutional threshold. That is quite critical. And then again, you look at even if these commissioners are appointed soon as possible, and how soon in Kenya, your guess is as good as mine. Do the IEBC have the requisite funds? Have they been given money? And if they are given, what is it that they are going to do? Is it start preparing for the elections, or start delimitation? And when you do delimitation, that means that when you go to the next elections, you must have all these logistics in mind. There is quite a crisis, and it is like it has been manufactured by politicians. And how we are going to wriggle out of that, we may need some divine intervention, because we have been manufacturing a crisis which may snowball into something major in the election year. And maybe going forward, we need to look at how we do not, I don't know how we can go about it, because in other jurisdictions, you do not have standing or permanent IEBCs to oversee elections. But in Kenya, because of the way the elections have been made a matter of life and death, you must have commissioners, you must use a lot of resources to have polling stations, to have electoral material which is printed with so much security, more than even the currency. And we spend a lot of money on the election day when you have a stationary ballot box, staying in a stationary polling station in a room guarded by cops with guns and agents and everybody else. Seals have to be put in a box that is not going anywhere, only to be broken in the evening, so that you can withdraw the ballot you put and count it. It's a total mess, and we need to relook at how we look at elections, how they are supervised, and all that, and maybe remove the politicians from the center of it, because the moment they become umpires and they're also the agents, they open up very many avenues for mischief and keep the country on tenterhook.
So before you jump in, CT, Wanyonyi brought an issue of 27 constituencies, which will be scrapped off if we do delimitations. These constituencies, and you know our politics, they are very, very emotive. Where is the majority of these constituencies? Is it in the northern region? Is it in the central region? Is it in... Because let me tell you, gentlemen, the moment you will start touching a constituency which did not have a requisite number of people, the citizens will be up against the teams.
Now, these constituencies were protected once. I tend to have a feeling they might be protected. That will probably be part of Ruto's goodies to Murima, because Murima is supposed to lose, I think, the bulk of those constituencies. And that is why Rigiji, Moses Kuria, Karua have been really trying to push for these 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, not the area. So I suspect they might cut a deal to protect those constituencies and say if probably the population has risen in these, you can ongeza hapa kidogo, but let's retain the units as they are. Now the problem with that is other guys are watching. If you protect Mukurweini because Wamunyororo is somewhere close by, then I also need my Kandui to be given something.
But
you see, the other actually the chaos with delimitation is just out of this world.
Yes.
I'll give you an example of Eldoret. Yeah. Eldoret, the town now, it's a city, was supposed to be a constituency.
Yes.
The problem with that is if you give it a constituency, then you'll have an area member of parliament who is not local. I mean, of course, not local, but who is not. I don't want to sound tribal. There could be indigenous, but they were born from a different line.
Yes.
Same for areas like Kandui. If you say you are going to carve out Bungoma town and let it stand as a constituency, there are those problems. So if you are going to protect, then now these other issues will come up, and it will require some very skillful arbiter to juggle those balls. I hope none of us will apply for those positions, because the kind of headache you'll get is out of this world.
I tend to agree with Wanyonyi because, you see, at the end of the day, that decision will still have to be passed by Parliament. Yeah. These are the same people who you are telling, scrap your constituency. Yes. What are you going to go and tell your constituents? That now is not there. Yeah. We will now be going to the next, that may be Tetu constituency, to be being given bursary and seeking development issues. I think it's a very emotive issue. Even I'm not sure whether there'll be anyone or any Kenyan who will sit in any public participation and agree that, going by the demographics, maybe the population, the area or the region, that such and such constituency should be scrapped. But now this brings me to, is it very important, noting that maybe we are past the constitutional timelines? I think the biggest headache for the next team that will come to be commissioners of the IEBC will be to vary which one comes first. Do they prepare for the 2027 general elections? Because you see, there's a process. You must do procurement, and before you do procurement, you must tender. There's all that. There are those polling stations that were added. You must also...
IEBC is supposed to do mass voter registration before the election.
Yes.
This mass voter registration is supposed to be based on the new units.
Yes.
So
the new, yes, because of the population and yes.
Because now I might be moved where I think I was supposed to be voting. I'll be told, Apana, now you guys, you are in a different ward or a different constituency. So IEBC, whereas it plans, it will have to carry these things concurrently, which is now more problems.
But do you think which will be the priority in terms of priority? Because they might go to court, and as you stated, they might get a favorable ruling from the Supreme Court.
The question is, when the Constitution stipulates, is it upon you to decide whether to follow or not to follow? Do you have the luxury of deciding, I'll do this instead of this? If it is clearly stipulated by the Constitution that within a certain period you're supposed to do A, B, C, D, can you choose to ignore the Constitution and legally continue holding office as a commission and as a commissioner?
I think these are some of the gray areas, especially in the Constitution, that the framers of this Constitution really didn't think of what if. Because we didn't foresee a situation where all the commissioners of the IEBC will leave office. And it's something that has been historical in this country. We've never seen a country that has no IEBC or commissioners in office for close to 2 years. So these are just some of the gray areas. And I'm very sure, as Wanyonyi has put it, if you go to the Supreme Court and try and argue all these, noting that even those who will be ruling are Kenyans and they've not been outside the country, they've been here with us and know what I've been trying to do. I think Supreme Court might give a favorable ruling, and maybe state, because of these issues, maybe they'll have to push. But I don't know how they'll have to do it, because I'm in a position where they bring the delimitation issue. It's a very emotive issue. They put all their hands in there. What happens to the preparation of the 2027 general elections?
The former boss chair is on record saying that we plan for the next election once we are through with the previous one.
Yes.
So that is a 5-year, 4-year arrangement.
The 2.5 years to the
elections.
To the elections, yes.
Yes. You remember the chicken gate, Otieno.
Yes.
Even the last election, there was this Greece farm, and some names were thrown here and there.
The Venezuelan.
And, yeah, so planning an election is a very intricate exercise. Yes. Do we have the time? We do not. Do we have a team? We do not.
Or could it be?
It could compromise the quality of these.
Could it be
elections?
that some people have been doing the procurement quietly? And if they have been doing that, then it would apply that Kenya can actually survive without the commissioners, because for the last 2 years, for the duration they have been out of office.
I'll remind you before you continue on the conflict between Chebukati and Chiloba.
Yes.
Chiloba was the secretariat, Chebukati was the
commission. Yeah.
And Chiloba tried to do things, and actually he was suspended, he was fired, he was brought back, he was this, he was that.
And he was nominated eventually.
Yeah. Exactly. The NADCO report talks about defining roles.
Yes.
What can a commissioner do? What can the secretariat do? And I think these will be done after they've selected these team. Yeah. But I suspect these guys are also not just sitting and reading newspapers and taking tea like Makoha. they have been doing things. Probably they have set ground. Yeah. What the commissioners will do is probably just come rubber stamp and move on. Rubber stamp and we move on.
But with the country's interest, we've seen what the interest, especially when it comes to tendering, and and we know that there's so billions at stake. So
my good friend Justice Lenaola Supreme Court said, and he kicked this storm. You remember when he went and said that this is the only country where the citizens are not concerned about IEBC. Now we have the selection panel. Will the citizens agree with the outcome of the commission, which will be put in place, especially the Gen Z? Will they agree with, if Ruto decides to be good with the Murima people and say, out of these 17 constituencies, which do not meet the threshold, and give them as a token to win them a political favor?
Whether they'll agree or not, that is a difficult task.
But unless they go to court, that's the only avenue they have to.
Kalonzo is not even agreeing with the faces. Definitely not.
The selection panel.
What avenues do they have to oppose it? None. Probably when during public participation, during the interviews, they should put in the petitions to say, this guy did this, this guy did that. But after it has been named, I doubt there is anything much they can do. It's just to live with the consequences of our own problems that we've made. This thing was supposed to have been thought out years ago.
But remember, there's still that legal avenue. They can go to court, and they can still drag the process. Because if this process has dragged since the naming of that selection panel, that was last year, I think mid last year, that case has dragged up to now. So just in case if they feel that they are not satisfied with the names or maybe some faces, they have that opportunity to go to court and argue their case.
Sorry, come to think of it, when you have got a panel that is choosing or supposed to look for commissioners, what is their work? It is not like they will go out like a coach and start scouting. That one can pray well, that one cannot. It is Kenyans who are supposed to submit their applications, and they will just sift through and determine who meets the threshold. So all this fuss about who sits in that panel, I think it was just blown out of proportion, because at the end of the day, even if you are to give it to a PR firm, to a HR firm, and tell them apply to KPMG, for example, or to another organization, then they'll pick out, if you want 10, you want 7, they will pick out the first 7. Of course, following a certain criteria, maybe regional balance, maybe gender, and people living with disabilities, something like that. But all these other things, I think, are artificial and are just making life difficult for everybody.
I tend to differ because the reason why there was NADCO, it was so that Ruto and Raila can at least come to a common census, especially when it comes to the selection panel. Now they have their people in that selection panel. This is just for optics. What I know is that they've already, back at the back of their minds, they already know who are these people that they would like to sit in that commission. And of course, they will tell them, apply for those positions. You have your person there to push your agenda. So if you have someone who you think that will push your agenda come 2020, that's the work of that person that has been placed there. It's not the because even when they agreed with Adams Olo, none of the Kenyans was asked, are you comfortable with Adams Olo?
But Adams Olo was not
I think the team that has been picked is a very good team in terms of experience, public service, I think integrity. So partisan politics might be an element, but there are other things that might override that, and they pick the best out of those who will apply. The only problem is, will the best apply? Because you see the way these offices has also been demonized. Maybe people will stay away for fearing of getting their tainted.
They may sleep on some of these applications,
By all
such
means.
that you apply and then your application never sees the light of day. It is hidden.
That is also...
Gentlemen, before...
Are you saying that is a
There are
factor?
so many people who will not be shortlisted, but in terms of the papers, the integrity, they are way above.
Remember, there are even petitions that have been sent to Bunge, but they never see the light of day. When the
yes.
speaker is asked to say, is he happy? All these things happen.
Gentlemen, I want us, before we close, just to touch on the PEFA fund and the effect. $65 million, Trump decided to say, and to executive order, that we will not get that fund. Has the African government or Kenyan government ready to work with a budget without that funding?
Now, our government treasury has not even released capitation for schools, which opened weeks ago. So definitely they have serious budget holes that they need to fill.
Yeah.
That this PEPFAR is just adding to the pain.
Yeah.
Of course, Donald Trump is supposed to think for the Americans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, the Americans, they touted themselves as the world leaders, so they think on behalf of the world. But African governments need to style up. Because this dependency on a foreign entity to fill such important budget votes is crazy. Because PEPFAR they've not pulled out, but they are reviewing what you call 90 days, doing an audit on whether this money was being spent well or not. In 90 days, there could be a shortage of ARV drugs. In 90 days, the malaria program could crumble. There are so many things that these guys are funding that are critical and at the core. So I hope Mbadi, he was trying to wax lyrical over at the next budget, the next financial year, the next this or that, will come up with a plan and an emergency plan. Because you remember, is it 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, we had a shortage of BCG vaccines. It's not just this year. Last year we were supposed to pay Gavi, I think 2 billion shillings, then they top up 4 billion, then they release these things. Nahumicha was a CS. And kids were suffering.
Yeah.
So we do not have plans for very critical welfare programs.
Yeah.
For the HIV, if you delay taking those drugs, the viral load goes up.
Yeah.
Viral load goes up, it now metamorphs to become AIDS,
Yeah.
which means it can either kill you or even infect more people, because once the load is low, you cannot infect your partners. So it is not something that you can say, let's sit and wait, do public participation or do this or that. Trump has already declared what he has declared. So it is up to William and Buddy to sit and decide what is of priority.
Okay.
If I may add,
Yeah.
it is unfortunate what is happening. and it is unfortunate that we have reached here, that America can consider withdrawing some of these funds. But this is a wake-up call, because it has been, I dare say, reckless. And for so long we have lived recklessly, not only in Kenya, but around Africa, to expect somebody else to carry our burden, our disease burden. When we are planning, I think the most critical thing in any country for anybody is about health. If you have not had policies that allocate funds that will make sure that your people are safe, can access health and treatment, then I think you have you have failed your country and humanity. It should be that African governments should be prioritizing about setting aside a certain amount of money for taking care of their people, whether they get external boost or not. Because failing to do that is failing the people and condemning their people to a lot of suffering, health, and possibly death. Because as Wanyonyi has said, if those people who are dependent on this PEPFAR and other global partners to supply these ARVs, they cannot access for some reason those ARVs, their lives are on the line. So why? The ARVs are such that you must take that pill or that tablet at a certain hour every day of your life. If you're supposed to take it at 7 a.m. in the morning, and for some reason you cannot do that and you have to take it at 8 or 9 or 10, there are consequences. If you continually do that, you are exposed to opportunistic diseases, and you are going to the viral load will plummet, and then the next thing you know, you can even die. So why would one ask, does a government or should a government subject their people to that? I think it is time these governments went back to the drawing board and started planning for their people, because failing to plan for health is planning to fail and actually condemning or confining people to early graves.
So I and I
Just
would,
one addition.
yeah.
And you know, it's not just a provision of the drugs. It's even research. You've seen they are saying, oh, we are phasing out this drug because we've realized it does this, we need to bring this. Kareithi has talked of one tablet every day. They were talking of an injection a month so that these people can live more comfortably. So all these things might go down the drain because of poor planning.
Lack of planning.
Yeah, but the question is a Kenyan government, for example, because PEPFAR brings us $65 million CT. And you know that our budget is always short of financing. We have to borrow, and we have to heavily borrow to finance our 1 trillion budget. If you add this $65 million, which you need, PEPFAR does for CDC, USAID, malaria, and HIV, and also research and what we call the vaccines, the children vaccines, will we be able to cut it through?
I think what ails the country is not lack of funds. I think the country has funds, it has money. What we don't have or what we lack is priority, wastage, and misuse. That is what is ailing this country. For instance, when it comes to priority, just the other day I saw Treasury CS John Badi indicating that they're going to come up with a kitty that will be hiring choppers for public officers to make them more efficient to go and if at all they want to travel or move from one county to the other, it will be efficient for them and time and because of time. You wonder, right now he should have come up with a budget, a supplementary budget, noting that Trump has already stopped that the funding. As a country, we are here. What do we do? Come up with a supplementary budget, even if it's 2, 3, 4 billion. Inject that fund to some of the priorities, especially the ARVs, the malaria, where we will have cushioned Kenyans from being affected more. And right now we have that AU reforms that is happening in the country. Currently the president is hosting close to 7 and 8 heads of states. I think as an African, as Africa as a continent, as Wanyonyi was saying, it is time for Africa to come up, sit down, say, okay, this is where we are. We are not really in good books with Western, because what they want is they want also a piece of our pie so that they can give us funding. So what do? Do we come up with a fund that each and every country will be expected to be contributing in the meantime? So these are some of the issues that our presidents in Africa should be asking ourselves or themselves, but more so back here in Kenya, what is the Treasury CS doing?
We have money to change the roof, your state house.
Yeah, there's money to
flat roof, so our guys can sit up with you and look at the masses in Nairobi.
Yes.
Yeah.
But sometime last year, Ruto was very vocal on this climate change business. And one thing he proposed is that we need to rework, there is a word for it, not re-engineer, the financial architecture, so that Africa can also leverage on global loans. And he said that it is now time for Africa to sit on the table. I asked him in one of the conferences, when we are coming to this table, what are we coming with? He told me that we are coming in with, we have, I think 2/3 arable land in Africa, can provide food for the world. We have a budding youth population. We have this and that. Well, okay, can they take that to the table with Trump and see if they can leverage on that? Because that is what we have, and that is what we are bringing to the table.
I'm very sure what they'll be pushing for is our minerals. That's the only way they'll be heading.
But also on the flip side, Wanyonyi, the Russian ambassador was saying that this thing is a welcome move.
That CDC
is a welcome move for the pathogens.
He's been on it for some time.
Yeah.
I think let's keep it out. Because you see, the claim is the CDC is working with Cambridge
to develop pathogens,
to research,
yes,
and develop germs.
Yes.
Where are they taking these germs?
But let me ask.
Why would we develop germs at Cambridge so that they can go and use it against their enemies? I think it's a hazy field.
I may not be sure, but such a pronouncement by
ambassador,
but no, by Trump, the 47th president.
Yes.
Must it be ratified by the parliament, or his signature is final? You know,
there are so many things.
There are so many.
Been stopped by the courts because of the process. It's not right. Even the WHO.
Yes.
He needs, I think, 1 year.
Yes, 1 year before he can pull out.
Why this PEPFAR is a problem is because he suspended it for 90 days to do an audit. Once the audit is done, it will be up to Trump, Marco Rubio, and their foreign fellows to decide what is of priority. Because what they've been doing is using these aid and support as a soft diplomacy to gain favors, to gain friends, and bambo kama hiyo. But all is not lost. You've seen he pulled out of Paris climate agreement, but the former mayor is called Bloomberg. He's going to foot that bill, I think, for the next 1 year. Some $9 million or kitu kama hiyo. WHO, China said, sisi, we are in this for the long haul. We'll keep sponsoring so that programs do not collapse. Maybe Africa will get someone who will assist us as Kina Mbadi sort out their flat roofs and choppers.
We must look it.
Wait for somebody to come and sort us out.
The manner.
I think we should emulate Trump. As bad as he may sound, he has the interests of Americans at heart. Why can't we have our governments having our interests at heart first before they think of external? Because the situation we are in is because we... Can you imagine a situation where we collect all our revenues and we channel them, say, to Ethiopia so that they can go and assist them, and then we are left struggling? No country should be doing that. And we should start looking inward for our solutions before we look outward for help.
Well, I think, Kareithi, you've captured it very well. I think, Francis, let's close. What would you close with? United against Ruto.
I wish that
Delimitation.
crowd ya kina Rigiji all the best, because I know their journey is not going to be easy. Same for the IEBC. Yeah. It's crazy. Equally for Mbadi. I mean, all you can do is to pray that he can work these mathematics out, because 2025 has begun on a very intense note, and we hope for the best, of course, with the country at heart.
Now, even as we talk about all the coalitions and standing against one man, the other man that will be watching closely and might complicate political matrix in the country is Raila Odinga, especially if he loses the AU seat. So that's something to take home. IBC, they got their work cut. Let's hope that the team that will come up will not see a Cherera 4, and the politicians will not try to infiltrate that team. And for Trump, I think it's a good move that Africa can now wake up and realize what happens if at all such funds are cut forever. We need to come up with permanent solutions that we can help our people. Remember that a sick nation, it's a nation as good as done.
How I wish all the energies and the efforts and the resources being used to unite against one man is used to confront all the problems you are having, and instead of doing early campaigns like we are seeing being done by both the government and the people who want to be in government, or if all this was concentrated towards resolving the issues that are afflicting Kenyans, we would have a better place to call Kenya. But as it is now, everybody wants power, but they don't know what to do with power. I wish there was a school where they would be taken to know that once you get power, this is what you are supposed to do to assist your people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Read the book, The 48 Laws of Power.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think it has been real. It has been very interesting to have you guys around. And of course, we've heard about the praise and worship choirs, and the Americans doing their thing. I think for the Kenyan citizens, it is us to take care of ourselves now. Because if your government will not get you medicine, there's a thing we used to say, wacha mpango. Wacha mpa? Yeah, wacha mpango. Thank you very much, and keep watching and keep listening to us.
see Kenya as the threat in the group. And from a discussion we had earlier, you say that, they looked to Kenya and said, you know what, we have to bring all ourselves back.
They needed to, because if you see how it has played the previous 2 to 3 matches, I think Kenya has been actually struggling with the so-called second fiddle kind of players, and Cameroon haven't done their research and scout where they know who is the Kenya and who are these players that have been giving Kenyan points.
Yes.
Yes. What Kenya played against Qatar, we played against Iran. That squad hasn't been the same squad has been playing for these qualifiers.
Yes.
Now coming to this particular game, I knew very well this player to Kenya when he played against Zimbabwe and Namibia. They might be back, and that will be a different face of Kenya that you are facing.
Yes.
And